Hi there, greetings and salutations. My name is Jake Query. That is, I don't know why, but the suddenly looking asleep Derek Schultz.
Hi. My wife drove off with, she's actually working day shift today.
Okay.
She had to. She's a night nurse,
Right.
but they needed her to work day shift today. She drove off and her my glasses were in her car.
But why do you look tired?
Why do I look tired? Jake, I don't know. Has there been anything going on this past weekend? Has the sports calendar been busy at all?
Did you have a Memorial Day?
Have I been busy with Purdue and other stuff? I mean, I haven't been as busy as you, but I have been busy. So, yes, I am tired. And I'm sorry that I look tired.
I am 11 years your elder?
Yeah, 10 and a half. But yeah, 10 and a half.
And worked probably, now not all the time, admittedly, but in the last 2 weeks probably worked 30% more hours than you?
Fair. Yeah. I was going to say 25, but yeah, 30% is probably fair. Yeah.
Let's go.
Look, man, we had an end-of-the-year school cookout. We had a Little League All-Star game on Saturday. He had a bounce house party yesterday. Like, it's just different when you have all of these things going on and then you also have children. Well, I mean, not plural for me, singular for me, but people at home, if you're a dad, you know what I mean. Like, the idea of a holiday weekend being this break where I can just kind of crash out and sleep and all of that.
Was this your first participation in a Little League All-Star event ever?
No. I attended my sister's softball All-Star games as well, which was run by the Trumbull Little League.
Okay. Well, we have plenty to talk about. This is Query and Schultz, brought to you by Bailey & Wood. Of course, our friends at Bailey & Wood, the very best when it comes to getting you the best mortgage rates and also keeping that money right here in Central Indiana with, before we know it, in another 3 months, we'll be at their golf outing where they give a lot of money back into Central Indiana and the south side of Indianapolis, notably. Great folks at Bailey & Wood. BAWFG.com is their website, BAWFG.com. Or, Derek, the phone number, as always, is
855-350-HOME.
855-350-HOME. I have a little bit of a cold going on. I can't. I don't. Is that allergy? Is it allergy season?
I had like a cough last night too. I think it's just your immune system spitting out whatever happened during race weekend.
Or it could be that it was 45 degrees and raining basically for 3 hours, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to wait to get into the 500 because Game 4 is tonight, and we have to run this early because we keep running up against Pacers, Knicks, Pacers playoff games conflicting with the show.
Good.
So. I'll save all of my Indianapolis 500 takes on weather and the race and the winner and all of that and more violations, more penalties coming up a little bit later on. But, yeah, it was it was 10 degrees at least too cool. I'll still take that over 95, but it was at least 10 degrees too cool on Sunday.
And then, of course, and I do think that this played a factor, Derek. Maybe I'm overthinking it. NBA games, and in particular playoff games, I mean, you've got to give credit to the New York Knicks and what they did in game number 3. But at the same time, there is part of me that wonders just because it was so symbolic. The Pacers seemed to run out of gas and hit the wall around the same time the crowd did.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious of this. If there were 22,000, is that how many Gainbridge holds?
Fewer than that, right? 18? 17? 18. Okay, 17, 18, yeah.
Okay, so 18,000. Yeah. If there were 18,000 people at Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Sunday for Game 3 between the Pacers and the Knicks, how many of those 18,000 had attended the Indy 500?
15 to 20% maybe?
Yeah, so I mean.
A fifth?
Yeah.
A sixth?
$3 to $5 grand, right? It was a long day.
Yeah.
And by the mid-third quarter, admittedly, it was tough to rally in your energy. And that's what it felt like when the Knicks, who were down 20, started creeping back. And when they got it to 7 and then they got it to 5, there wasn't the overall, like, all of a sudden raucous, like, let's go, let's close this out. I mean, people were just kind of in a zone. I mean, this is a blame to nobody. And I don't mean that the players were, but it just seemed symbolically on the floor to represent what
everyone was feeling.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
Now the question becomes, I mean, you knew that, they're still in very good shape. And I think I said this going into the Cleveland series as well. but it feels to me now like the winner in Game 4 wins the series.
I'm not ready to go there. I was absolutely ready to go there with the Cleveland series because I felt like if the Pacers went up 3-1, that was it. I'm not ready to say look, if the Pacers win Game 4, then yeah, I guess I'll say that. If the Knicks make it 2-2, I'm still – I mean, it'd be hard to win 3 games at the Garden, right, when you've already won 2 and you blew a gigantic opportunity. But what I'm concerned about, Jake, is that – and I was talking to Vince about this. Remember – Game 3 last year at the Fieldhouse, Pacers were down 0-2. DiVincenzo was going off, and you were like, oh, my God. Like, the Knicks were up 10, 12, 14 points, and you're like, they might sweep this series, remember? And the Pacers came all the way back. Nembhard hits the shot. It saves the series, and it flips things around. That's what you don't want in this series because that was the opportunity. The Knicks could have ended the series that night, and they let it get away, and then they lost it. The Pacers could have ended the series. Halliburton, Sterling, alley-oops. The place is about going berserko. They're up 20 points. The Knicks are like this on the ropes. And all you got to do is land that last blow, and the Pacers couldn't do it. They scored 42 points in the second half. I mean, we could talk all we want about defense on Cat. Like, Cat's a very tough guy, Karl-Anthony Towns, to guard, right? Pacers scored 42 points in the second half. You're not beating anybody scoring 42 points in the second half.
You know what I learned yesterday?
What's that?
There was a post about this that went semi-viral. I didn't realize his name's Karl-Anthony.
Yeah. Like, it's not Anthony Towns, Anthony-Towns.
Right.
Yeah. You thought it was.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You just thought his name was
Yeah.
Anthony Towns. Yeah.
I mean, the dude can, if he's not the best shooting big man in the league, he's, like, right there.
Yes.
He can shoot from 30 feet. He can put the ball on the floor. He can handle it. You know, like he is just defensively,
he's
right?
A unicorn.
He's not a perfectly well-rounded player. We know what he is defensively, but offensively speaking, he's about as skilled as anybody in the entire NBA.
I would agree with that.
And you saw it in that fourth quarter, and I don't know if it really mattered. You know, people were complaining, oh, Tony Bradley's on him, and then Turner's on him. You know, you put a small on him, he's just going to shoot over him. It's just very difficult when he is in his bag like that to get him stopped. But the Pacers should have never been in that position. The Pacers should have been up 18, 19, 20 points going into the fourth, and then none of that stuff really matters. But instead, you let it get to 10. And opening the window at the end of the third quarter is what changed the complexion of that game. If the Pacers just held steady, if that's a 16, 17-point game in the fourth quarter, they're up 3-0 right now. 100% convinced.
The other thing they did not – okay, two things that Indiana did not do in Game 3 that they absolutely have to do in Game 4. Okay, number one, they've got to continue to attack Brunson and Towns both. When those guys picked up 4 fouls each, you thought, okay, real problem for them. And they never – they ceased to just continue to go there. Secondly, Derek, Indiana in the first half had 14 points on fast breaks. They only had 2 in the second half. They slowed it down. And against the Knicks, you got to keep going. And they didn't do that. And I just think that also did them in. I think they had the right, at least – you know, in terms of their address of the media, they said the right things of like, hey, you know what, in the end it's one game. We got to turn around. We got to get back on the horse and go. But, again, you go down 2-2 as opposed to being up 3-1. That's more than a game difference, right?
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, I think what's really interested me about this series is the fact that I think we expected the officiating to play a role because Pacers fans always expect the officiating to play a role when they're playing a big market team. It's played far less of a role than the Cleveland series. Cleveland lived at the free throw line that entire series, last series, and this hasn't really been that case as far as that's been concerned. And also the rebounding, the team that has won the rebounding battle has lost all 3 of the first 3 games. It's just been weird. But if you're looking for glass half full, Jake, Pacers played a C game, C-minus game.
And they were still,
They were tied with 90 seconds left.
Right.
They were right there. They could have still won that game. They did not play a great game, and it took Cat scoring 20 points in the fourth quarter. It took this Herculean effort from him to save the Knicks season. I still very much believe that the Pacers are the better team, and they need less perfect play in order to win. The Pacers can play a B+ game and win a game against the Knicks, whereas it feels like the Knicks are throwing everything out there, right? They're like, oh my God, like we gotta try to figure out a way to do this. And it just feels more, not effortless because you have to put in effort, right? But it feels a little easier for the Pacers to find a way.
Here's another observation from the game I have, okay?
How sad Indy's celebrity role is. Look, I'm not trying to be mean, and no one is going to compete with the Garden Celebrity Row, but the Pacers probably, of all 30 NBA markets, aren't going to maybe compete with anybody's. Like, the Pacers are like, hey, here's Terry Crews, and I'm like, Terry Crews wouldn't even break probably the top 100 most famous people at the Knicks game.
Well, he would at most arenas, though.
Yeah, in other ones, for sure. But I like the fact that the Pacers, what I like the Pacers did is let's bring back Steven Jackson and Dale Davis and, I mean, Smits goes to all the games as it is, right?
No.
Not anymore?
He lives in Arizona.
He did for a while.
Yeah,
okay. Because his son grew up in Zionsville, right? Wasn't that where
Correct.
he was? I wasn't aware that he moved. But I love the fact that they brought all those guys back. I thought that was cool.
Now, visiting fans. I don't know. There's like a class culture in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter whether it's the Knicks, the Heat, whatever team has like the Golden State, whoever has the trendy player.
Golden State's a big one.
They're all the same. They're all the same. It's always one guy that has on a retro jersey, a little overweight, some sort of a beard, and then very odd, like gold, always gold. Gold-rimmed glasses of some sort. Okay. Large gold chain. And then they're always accompanied by a little kind of pipsqueak-looking guy that looks like an emaciated Kid Rock. And they're
in your face the whole time.
Well, and they're just like, yes, but it doesn't matter the team.
Yeah.
Like these guys, go New York, go, doing that. If it's Detroit, it's Detroit. But it's literally the same. These guys are, it's like they're made in a factory somewhere.
The people that
middle-aged kind of fat guy, and then like late 20s, like the toady of that guy, and you're like, these people paid $20,000 for these seats.
If you're hopping into the Lions Den like that, all decked out and everything, you want to be in everybody's face. You want to be seen.
Correct.
You want to bring attention onto yourself. I think the common trait with the road fan in high-level road atmospheres is, bring it on, bro. Come at me. I want you to see that I'm decked out and I'm a Knicks fan. I'm in your face and I'm taunting you in the whole deal. Like that's how I've always felt.
These guys actually, I was talking to them before the game, and I mean they were actually pretty cool. Like they got it right. It was almost like they were playing a character. But the one guy, I did say to him, shoot me straight. Like, what do you think about the series? Shoot me straight. And he did say, he goes, if they lose tonight, it's over.
No.
And he said, but if they win tonight, I think the Knicks win in 6. Okay. So.
Yeah, I don't think that.
But anyway, he did say, I said, well, what about just when they introduced Reggie Miller, he stood up and did this, right?
Yeah.
But then he said, I really would pay at charity auction, I would pay a lot of money to punch T.J. McConnell in the face.
Yeah, they don't like T.J. McConnell. There's a Knicks podcast guy that calls him Home Alone. And so he says, you can't let Home Alone beat you. And Home Alone's been kicking their the last 2 years in the series. But yeah, I just think that there's no reason to panic. I feel very similar to how I felt with the Cavs series. And the Cavs game 3 was a blowout. Remember, that was way worse than what the Knicks did to them the other night. And I think they're better. I think we've seen 3 games where the Pacers have more easily been able to dictate things than the Knicks have been able to dictate things to them.
A big part of that is going to be moving forward the availability and health of Aaron Nesmith.
Well, yeah.
He's a very important player in this series. And, you could say, well, oh, yeah, but he came out in that game. Well, it's different. You sprain or turn an ankle, everybody's had this happen, and then if you stay on it, it stays loose kind of, and almost like the adrenaline gets you through. Then as soon as you stop, you look down and it just goes, whoop, and you've got to, now you got a softball.
Like Pinocchio's nose.
Yes.
But it's your ankle bone.
Correct.
Yeah. And maybe it's Ben Shepherd, I guess.
I would think Shepherd. I'm curious at what point, Derek. Shepherd, I would agree. Matherin's probably going to get increased minutes if Nesmith doesn't go.
He's had a miserable series.
He has. And I'm curious of this. At what point did they replace Matherin with Walker? When do you start to say, let's see what Walker can do?
If the fact that Tony Bradley's out there and Walker still's not playing tells you all you need to know. Walker's not going to – I don't think Walker will be out. I thought maybe throw Walker in for a couple of possessions to see if he had anything for Cat.
Right.
Totally agree. Just to see. I mean, the Knicks are throwing everything against the wall.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like let's just kind of see if that ends up working. But, man, barring something unforeseen, I mean, even if the Pacers go to the finals and, hell, if they win the championship, we're – the first offseason question, once the dust settles on whatever the 25 Pacers are, is what's going to happen with Matherin, because I don't see it. I don't think there's a fit for him. I think he's disruptive to what they do. I think he hurts more than helps far more often. And that's not to say that he's not an intensely talented player who I think he has another level to get to. I just don't see it happening here. I don't think this is the environment for that.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it does feel like it feels like this series and really this postseason in general, this has nothing to do with Benedict Matherin as a player or as a person, either one. It just feels like he's the one that least fits in this group.
Yeah. I think he just needs to go to Atlanta or something and average 25 a game.
20-25 guy.
Yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about him. But no, glass half full. Again, if you're listening to this a couple of hours before the game, I still think the Pacers are better. I still think they're going to win the series. They've put themselves in a position where something like what happened on Sunday night is survivable. You know, if you don't have the game one rally and suddenly it's 2-1, this is a house money game for the Knicks tonight. But instead, the Knicks kind of have to win this game too, honestly. They got to win this one too.
Well, they have to, because you got to consider they have to win. They have to sweep here, or else
a best case scenario game 7.
The home court stays with Indiana. Right?
and it's a best case scenario game 7. So that's what you're playing for if you lose tonight.
Can I ask you a question, by the way?
Sure.
I decided that it's time. It's time for me to
retire.
No, that's close. New watch. I decided I want to treat myself, get a new watch.
Okay.
But I have 2 that I'm picking from, and I don't know which one I like better.
Yeah, can we do this maybe when the show's not going? Can we do this? You can just text me a couple of pictures. I don't need to do this right now on the show.
Here's number 1. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. Okay, that's watch number 1.
Okay, great. It's a watch.
Okay, but then here's watch number 2.
Why did we put, the Cryon makes it look like people are excited about this? No one is excited about this.
Which one do you like?
It's got an exclamation point.
Which watch?
Jake's getting a new watch. Okay. I don't care.
There's
no one
number
cares.
2. No,
okay. They look exactly the same.
No, they don't. That's number 2
okay,
right
great.
there.
They both have the 3 clock dealios. Yep.
Well, that's got the wing and wheel. See, and it says Indy 500.
I can't see. I don't have my glasses. Oh, I can't. It's just a black blob.
And then here's here's the other one. Okay.
There we go. Yeah. See, we're excited about that. Derek does not care about watch. We're excited about that.
Okay. What do you think? Which one?
I don't know. I kind of like the more traditional one, that one. But they're both black blobs to me. The other one looked like there was too much going on.
Which do you guys like better, the first or second? The first with the white? Yeah, okay.
Time for our Hoagie and Hero of the Week. Brought to you by our friends at Hoagies and Hops.
I thought you'd be proud of the fact that as an adult I've decided to treat myself.
I was in there after the race, and there were a lot of people that were in there after the race. Isn't that cool? At Hoagies and Hops. It was awesome. 7 o'clock. I biked on my way back.
Perfect post-race grub.
On my way back from the race, I biked just to Hoagies and Hops because it was on the way home and picked up a sando.
Let me say this about Hoagies and Hops, okay? Hoagies and Hops, the Indy 500 is the best event in the world because it is a celebration of Indianapolis. And we love when people from elsewhere come and see what it's like, the parade, all of it. It's a celebration of Indianapolis. The Hoagies and Hops, the thing I love about it is it's a celebration of home. It's a celebration for Christina of Philadelphia or the Pennsylvania area where she's from, between the taste of it, the recipes of it, the bread, all of it, right? But yet she's married it with now Indianapolis because she brought a slice of her home to here, and people now love it. And I just think it's such an awesome confluence of those two things. And the corner that it's on kind of looks like a corner you'd see in South Philly.
It does.
And the food is awesome, and people have embraced it.
There's a bodega right across the street. I mean, it does look like Philly.
It's great.
It's very Philly.
Everything about it is awesome. But in addition to that, what you see is people that go in there, and that becomes their spot, not just because of the food, but it's home for them now, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, people like, whether it's Darren or Matthew or whoever goes in there, they go in, and it's like Cheers, but with food instead of beer. But you have beer as well because you have chili water right next door, right adjacent to it. So you can go in, you can get yourself a chili water like right here. The Lima Ranchera, whichever way you'd like to say it, which is obviously one of their fine ales and lagers. They have the description on this one. 5.3%, very smooth.
So it's a
little bit of that lime. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's sort of like a Mexican lager, but much lighter. And there's the sweetness there with the lime. Taste it.
It's outstanding.
It's good. And what I have here, speaking of Philly, is the Bro, Philly Love. Lots of meats on this thing. So chopped turk, little salam,
Turkey,
little ham,
salami, ham,
little
provolone,
little L, little T, little O, and a little OO. Top that off.
What is OO?
Olive oil.
Olive oil.
You always ask that question. Olive oil. Hero of the week. I wanted to keep this basketball related because we were talking basketball.
Can you finish your food?
We have not really discussed the other series. Thunder going to the finals, right? They're up 3-1. They won last night. I think Minnesota's last chance was probably to win that game. They did not win that game.
And it was a close game.
Yeah. He just won MVP for the first time. He's putting together an incredible season. And I just don't think – I think NBA people know how good Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. But I just don't think that – and this really isn't the case with, Steph Curry and with guys that have kind of come through that have been obviously LeBron and players like that. I don't know how good he is being appreciated nationally. He's 26, Jake. This is his third straight All-NBA first team. This is his first MVP.
You're talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, yes.
He's leading the Thunder to an historically great season. They're going to be a massive NBA Finals favorite, regardless of who they play, whether it's the Pacers or Knicks. He's been unbelievable. And, I mean, I still probably would have voted for Jokic just because that's just where I am with him. I think you could give it to him every year, and you might as well. I don't think Denver is close to where they are.
What player of the immediate preceding him era would you say that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander most reminds you of?
I don't even know because I don't think any individual player has done necessarily what he's done.
I would say Damian Lillard. Am I off base there?
Yeah, but he's reached a higher level than Dame ever reached. And Dame's a Hall of Famer.
I'm saying his style.
Yeah.
He's a scorer with a mid-range game that's automatic. Dwayne Wade would maybe be up there, although I don't know that he has to.
I think he's almost like a better version of James Harden. Maybe. James Harden comes with a negative connotation, but SGA, part of his game is getting to the line. And so you have to think of, who are the great players that get to the line, right? Harden, Brunson, Mitchell. Those are the guys that really kind of take advantage of that, and he's figured out a way to take advantage of that. That's not to discredit his game. I'm just saying that that's a big part of how he generates offense.
Where was he selected in his draft?
7th? 8th? I actually don't know.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to look.
Late top 10?
I'm going to look. I thought it was 14, but I want to look and see.
I don't think he was in the
drafted.
teens, was he?
Who was drafted above or below him? I always get a kick out of
this. We're in it's the middle of what we said.
What's that?
It's 11th. Yeah.
Okay, still. Let's look at players that were taken just before him.
The Knicks took Kevin Knox 2 picks before him. Yikes.
Kevin Knox? I'm trying to find the list.
His teammate. I got it right here. Ready?
Can you wait? I'll just read them off because you're eating.
Ready? I'll do it. Picks immediately in front of SGA. Mo Bamba, who's supposed to be the next big thing, right? Mo Bamba was nothing in the league. Wendell Carter. Colin Sexton. Kevin Knox, who just was never anything. Mikal Bridges is a good player.
He's
Good player. He's not SGA, but he's a good player. And then right after him, Miles Bridges, Michael Porter Jr. So there's some good players in there,
Did
too.
you say Wendell Carter?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the front of that draft. DeAndre Ayton was number 1 overall.
Yeah. I mean, wait.
Marvin Bagley.
Yeah, like Wendell Carter's okay, but yeah. A lot of these other guys, not so much. I mean, Marvin Bagley's never been really anything. He's fine. Jared Jackson Jr., JJJ's a good player, really good player.
He is.
Obviously, Luka's Luka. Trae Young is a great player. It was a good draft. I mean, if your top 4 is Luka, SGA, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Trae, that's a pretty good draft. DiVincenzo's in this draft. Grayson Allen's had a good NBA career.
Aaron Holiday was the Pacers selection over Anthony Simons, Mortiz Wagner, who's a pretty good player.
Mo Wagner's okay, yeah. But where is Aaron Holiday in Washington?
Jalen Brunson went like 15 spots after Aaron Holiday.
He's in Houston.
Gary Trent Jr. was in that draft after Holiday.
God, he's already on his 5th NBA team.
Yeah, but he's lasted.
Yeah. He's fine. I mean, they've drafted him to be a backup point guard, right? They drafted him kind of to be Nemhard, and he wasn't even that good. But, yeah, SGA, I think it's worth it. Hoagie and Hero of the Week. Brotherly love. Check out the Lima Ranchera, 42nd Boulevard, catering at hoagiesandhops.com. We come back. Massive viewership number for the Indianapolis 500.
Derek, finish eating and then talk.
We discussed that. Alex Palou
massive television numbers for the Indy 500, Derek said.
Alex Palou's win.
Alex Palou won the race.
And why I was actually pretty disappointed overall.
Derek was disappointed overall.
We'll discuss when we return.
We'll discuss when we return.
Query and Schultz
it's Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network.
Stick around.
Tonight.
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back to the show. Query and Schultz, presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group here on the ISC Sports Network. I'll admit, Jake, I'm always, as much as I'm basking in the glow of a great Memorial Day weekend and sports weekend, racers and pacers, the whole deal, I'm always a little depressed after the 500, and it's over, and now you have to wait, and the victory banquet is always kind of sad to me, and seeing the news stories of everybody picking up garbage at IMS, just to, the finality of it all, right? Because you dedicate most of your 2 weeks, at least, beforehand to getting ready for that event and getting amped up for it. I was thrilled to see the viewership numbers. Lifting the blackout obviously helps with that, right? But 7 million on Fox, 40% jump year over year. We've been hard on IndyCar because they've turned in some, frankly, embarrassing numbers. On network TV, they had 550,000 people, I think, tune in for Barber. Or maybe that was the Long Beach race. I don't remember. Which was the one that ran against the Masters?
I think that was Barber.
Okay. But that's obviously a good thing, and it's something that they can sell. I'll be honest. I was in the media center, and I feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here because you and I have both agreed over the years that the Indy 500 needs to attract more famous people. You can't just have, hey, here's A.J. Foyt driving the pace car, and here's Lone Star Jr. giving the no offense to those guys. Those are legends to people in Indianapolis, but you need people that aren't necessarily IndyCar people to be in it. But I'll be honest, like, here's Derek Jeter and A-Rod, and I was kind of like, I mean, for me, Yankee fan, yay, but overall I was kind of like,
Well, Tom Brady got booed.
They did seemingly have a much better celebrity list this year.
I think Fox had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I think they did too. I think Fox put a lot of effort into it. I thought the Carl Fisher cosplay video before the race, if anybody saw that, was weird.
I didn't see that.
Well, I mean, you were up in your perch and ready to go. And the broadcast overall was, I rewatched it with my dad yesterday. It was okay. It was CC+, but I'm glad so many people tuned in. What I'm bummed about is that, and it almost feels sacrilegious to say this, we've been spoiled. We've had so many great finishes and just great races over the last 10, 12 years at this event. It was a blah race. It was sloppy. It was slow. The last 10 laps were inconsequential.
Derek, here's what happened.
I was disappointed overall.
Here's what happened. A handful of years ago, and I'm spitballing the number, I'll just say a handful because I don't know the exact timeline here, but IndyCar and its manufacturers, Chevrolet and notably Honda, became keenly aware and wanted to be at the very front, either on board with or in front of the ingenuity, the evolution of the automobile in the United States, knowing that things were headed towards electric cars. And there was a concern that because things were headed towards electric cars, that the Indy 500, for example, would be all electric cars, and that normally combustible engines, as we've known forever, and the sounds, the turbo engines, all that would go away. So while you wanted to still have the root of the Indy 500, you wanted to also, as is part of the root of the Indy 500, is the innovation of from the track to the showroom. So how do you then accommodate having that? And so they basically, especially at Honda's urging, said, we will come up with an innovation of what you're talking about, and we'll meet you halfway on this, and we'll come up with a thing for the engine called a hybrid unit. And the hybrid unit will allow for extra boost and extra power to the engine based on a battery-operated, if you will, non-combustible engine that gives extra boost. That hybrid unit that went into the cars and debuted this year at the 500, this was the first year of the 500 for them, come at a time when then the engine manufacturers are kind of walking away from the battery car. But this was the long time developed, so they're in there. The weight on those battery hybrid units, the way that they weigh down the car, changes the aerodynamics of the dirty air coming off of the cars, meaning that if you get cars in a line, if you are the third or fourth car back, it becomes very difficult for you to pass because of the amount, the way the air is coming off and how far down your car is. So Alex Palou, late in that race, knew that Devlin DeFrancesco and Louis Foster were running on the lead lap right in front of him. He knew that Marcus Ericsson was right behind him. He had managed before they got up to those two to get around Ericsson because he knew, if I'm going to go, I got to go now before we get into this train. Then once they got into that train, Alex Palou in the last 14 laps played it beautifully because what he did was, when you were a kid, did you ever have the little toy train sets that were magnets?
Yeah.
Little wooden ones that magnetized? Mm-hmm. So he knew, I'm going to get right up there, and Marcus Ericsson's going to get magneted right behind me. And now he can't pass me because of the air that the three cars are going to create for him. Yeah. It's going to keep him pushed back. So Palou knew that Foster and DeFrancesco were creating for him a buffer that Ericsson was not going to be able to get around. It was a brilliant move by Alex Palou. It was a very smart strategy and perfectly timed move by Alex Palou, who had learned a little bit from 2021 when he was chasing down Elio Castroneves late in the race about when to pounce and when to wait. And so, therefore, that allowed him to win the race in a rather unceremonious fashion. However, the thing that I would say to offset that would be this. And I'm going to show a little bit of personal bias here, perhaps. The Indianapolis 500-mile race is the greatest race in the world. And the reason it's the greatest race in the world is because there are no fluke winners. When you overlook the list of winners at the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
It's all heavy hitters.
It is all heavy hitters. And it is all drivers that were in either the year that they won it or the era that they won it, the best, if not one of the best of their era or generation. Alex Palou, in terms of what he is doing right now with an open wheel racing, an Indy 500 win was the only thing on his resume he has yet to accomplish to this point. And it was going to be a matter of time. And that racetrack chooses its winner. And Ryan Hunter-Reay ran his team and his strategy. They ran a beautiful race. I mean, they did exactly what they needed to do. But it was a fuel-save strategy that got Hunter-Reay up towards the front. And while he is a remarkable driver that could win in any car you put him in, that is a smaller-funded team that didn't start up towards the front. So if he'd have won, you kind of would have said, like, yeah, it was kind of a fluke. He's a deserving guy, and he's a great driver, but it was kind of a fluky win. Same with Jack Harvey. Had he gotten up there and won, okay? Alex Palou was not. He was a legitimate top 3 favorite going into it because he is as good as anybody currently in the sport, and therefore she chose the right winner.
Yeah.
And I would say this. Here's the other thing about Alex Palou. He not broke, but he suspended temporarily one tradition and he started another. After the race, Alex Palou, of course, took the swig of milk, the most famous and rewarding and coolest reward in all of sports, from the American Dairy Association of Indiana, who once again, Derek and I are thrilled, honored, and most appreciative that they allowed us to MC their fastest rookie luncheon. We'll get to Robert Schwartzman in a second. But when they did so, they were telling us how each driver fills out the sheet of what milk they would like if they were to win the Indy 500. Alex Palou did 2 things. First, he was one of 3 drivers that requested a baby-size or child-size bottle of milk should he win it so that his daughter could also enjoy milk in Victory Lane.
Pretty cool.
And that did take place. They accommodated that. Secondly, Alex Palou also made the decision, because he had thought about it beforehand, that he was going to be the first driver since 2001 to not dunk the milk over his head. And so he simply drank it. And I love the fact that his explanation for that was because he wanted to be able to share it with his team and pass the milk around. Alex Palou, who is from Barcelona, Spain, now lives on the north side of Indianapolis, a married father, took the wreath to the Pacer game, soaked it all in. He is my Winners Drink Milk winner of the week. Goes without saying. Congratulations to the winner of the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. And if he'd taken the chocolate milk, which is not one of the options, but after a workout, you don't have to run 500 miles. You need as much vitamin A as you can get in spinach. You need as much protein as you can get in a hard-boiled egg, as much potassium as a banana. You get it all with chocolate milk, and Winners Drink Milk.
I got a different one for winner of the week. I mean, obviously, Palou, right? Anytime he's already an all-time great, just with what he's accomplished so far in, 5 years in the series. He's already – Alex Palou could never race again after this week, and he'd be an all-time great in IndyCar. So, yes, well-deserved. Mine actually goes to AJ Foyt Racing.
Yeah.
How about the Foyt cars? And thanks to the penalties on Ericsson and Kirkwood, which we haven't talked about, but Foyt had 2 cars finish in the top 5. David Malukas was in the mix, and he ended up runner-up because of Ericsson's demotion. And how about a 7th straight top 10 for Santino Ferrucci? He has run every lap in 7 starts. 7 starts, every lap completed for Ferrucci, which is incredible. 3rd, 8th, and 5th place finishes in his 3 Indy efforts for AJ Foyt. I thought those cars were great. They're really, really great on Sunday, which it was difficult to do. Yes, some of it is luck and avoiding pit penalties, but you know what? They did it. Mm-hmm. They did it. They made it happen. They were in the mix. They had a driver in the mix, and 2 cars running up front. So congratulations to AJ Foyt Racing.
Ferrucci, who is a Connecticutian.
Mm-hmm.
2 things here with that. Number 1.
It's good milk.
Ferrucci now has set a new record within the Indianapolis 500. He has the most races completed without a DNF.
Wow.
7 for 7.
Yeah.
Howdy Holmes was the existing record at 6. Howdy Holmes was surpassed twice. Dario Franchitti and Simon Pagenaud both had eclipsed it, but then in their final start, both of them got a DNF.
Yeah.
So that takes them off the board.
Wow.
So Santino Ferrucci now has to keep it clean the rest of his time. Totally agree. Very likable guy, too. I like Ferrucci. David Malukas in that 4 car, while I'm not saying that I hope this happens because I like the other guy a great deal and I think is a great talent that still has a lot of wins left in him, but I think that partnership, the technical partnership between AJ Foyt Racing and Penske Racing, that was partially done to be able to have a fingerprint on David Malukas to take over Will Power's ride in the 12 car, which I would anticipate next year happening.
It's interesting that you mentioned Will Power. Jake and I do this every year where we have a conversation right after the race. I mean, it's just, biggest day of the year. What do you want to do? You want to call your best friend immediately afterwards.
Yeah, okay.
And we have basically a Mr. Irrelevant award. I had petitioned to call it the Marco Andretti Award, but Marco actually crashed, so you heard his name. Normally, Marco just finishes 18th, and he just goes out there and turns laps, and then that's it.
Right.
I didn't hear Will Power's name once all day. I did not think about Will Power once. I didn't see Will Power once all day.
I never saw his car.
I did not. Yeah,
Never
he
saw
was
his car.
not mentioned, I don't believe, on any of the broadcasts, radio or
the fact
TV.
that he started 33rd was the one reason why you heard about him.
Yeah.
But when the race started, Newgarden...
All the focus was on Newgarden. Yeah. No one cared that Power was trying to charge for the
Derek, I'm going to say something here that's going to be an unpopular opinion. And
What, that he was going to win the race if he stayed clean?
I mean it as no disrespect to Alex Palou.
Yeah.
If Joseph Newgarden did not have a fuel line issue, Joseph Newgarden wins the race.
That's the race. That's Indy. How many times would you say that about?
I know, but I'm saying, but I mean, he was.
What was the year? Was it 18 or 19 where Rossi had a freaking rocket ship and he was going like this and passing people and stuff, and then he had something happen in the pits or something, and it was just like, hey, like
fuel line got stuck in the pits,
if he would have stayed, and obviously he had the fire. If he would have stayed clean that year, I mean, he had the best car, and Newgarden had the best car on Sunday. Rossi had a great car on Sunday too, but Newgarden had the best car. I think that was evident to anybody that was watching. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah.
Now
he's an unbelievable talent. The attenuators and the things like that doesn't take away from how good Joseph Newgarden is.
Yeah. Now the other question is this: the Marcus Ericsson situation. What would happen if he'd have won the race?
You have to take it away, right?
I guess.
Is Bobby in 81 the last time that happened, and then they gave it back to him?
Yeah, but if you look at, and maybe this is why. I mean, now, if you look at when Nathan Brown and Jenna Fryer went into the museum and saw that last year's car for Newgarden technically is one that should have failed tech inspection, but it was the winner. Is that the reason why they went, you know what, we can't, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
But it passed pre and post race tech.
Right.
So you could fall under that technicality with the Newgarden car, whereas Ericsson's car failed post race tech. So,
but what I'm saying is, I want to make very clear here. I don't think this is the case. I'm not implying it is, but I'm curious if anybody else thought this. If Joseph Newgarden's car from a year ago is in the museum as a winner, and it has modified pieces that were not to be modified, meaning that it went through post-race tech inspection, and what was a violation was not deemed a violation. Maybe it was just overlooked, whatever else. Marcus Ericsson's car fails post-race inspection as the runner-up. If it had won the race, would they still have failed it? Or do we have evidence now with Newgarden that if you win it, there's kind of a PR headache there where it's like, okay.
Oh, yeah, okay. Then framing it that way, yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what they would.
I felt bad for Ericsson, though.
Yeah. Did he choke? Did he choke? Pato said he choked. And I was like.
Did Ericsson do?
Yeah.
No, I don't
think he choked.
No.
I think Palou is great.
Right.
I mean, like, I don't know.
Did Clyde Drexler choke by not beating the Bulls?
That's a fair point. Yeah, and that's actually probably a good comparison to make. I mean, Ericsson's really good. He ain't Jordan, right? But I think Pato was bitter because he basically had to run 200 laps knowing that he wasn't going to win the race. Right. I mean, it was pretty evident.
Boy, at the end though, I'm like, whoa, here comes Pato, right?
For a very brief window
got up there
there.
to play, right?
A very brief
window.
window.
And then he fell back.
Yeah, and then that was it. Yeah, it was a very, very brief window for him. And hopefully it happens for him at some point here, but it's going to be tough. God, it feels like last week there was so much stuff that happened. The Penske penalties happened right after we taped the show. Jim Irsay passed away right after we taped the show. I can't believe we have to wait till segment 3 to do that, but let's give some remembrances or comments on Jim Irsay's passing, because this is the first time doing a show since that happened. Also, some quick hits as we continue here on Query and Schultz, here on the ISC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
At Bailey and Wood.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Welcome back. Corey and Schultz presented by Bailey and Wood Financial Group. He's Jake. I'm Derek. Was it Wednesday? Yeah, because it was right before a Pacers game, right? So it was right before Pacers-Knicks game 1, right? Yes, because the Halliburton shot that bounced up into the air and fell in.
It was right after.
It was talked about as, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, Irsay passed that day. Or the announcement happened that day.
That's right.
Jim Irsay passing away, which, look, he was 65 going on 85. I think we knew, I think Jim knew that it could come basically at any time. The fact that he wasn't at the owners' meetings and wasn't really part of the draft, at least publicly facing draft, I thought was interesting, but I didn't think it was necessarily ominous.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wasn't thinking to myself, oh, he's on, he's about to pass or anything. And it's still, the finality of it all is just jarring. He was such a presence and had such an omnipresence in Indianapolis sports. And it's hard even a week later to picture Indianapolis sports without Jim Irsay, right? But I said this, it's so hard to react in the moment, but I said this on Wednesday night when it happened, and it's my prevailing thought about Jim Irsay. He loved Indianapolis. He loved Colts fans, and he was committed to winning. He wanted to win more than anything else. And there are a lot of sports owners, billionaire owners, who don't have their priorities lined up like that, who don't care about the fans, who don't care about the city that they're in, and who absolutely do not care about winning. They just want to cash a check. It's a business venture for them. And for Irsay, he was an A+ in all three of those categories. So he had his failings in his life. I think we all know what those were, both personal and professional. But those three areas are, if I'm a sports fan, the number one thing that I want, the three things that I want somebody that cares about me, I want somebody that cares about the city, and I want somebody that cares about winning. And Irsay cared about all three of those things deeply.
Yeah, I think when you look at when Tony Dungy was fired by the Tampa Bay Bucks and Jim Irsay decided to move on from Jim Mora. And so therefore, they're looking for a head coach, and he calls Tony Dungy on the phone. And Tony Dungy will tell you that Jim Irsay didn't say anything about winning. He didn't say anything about the Super Bowl. He said, what we need here is a coach that can help us with a culture that this city finally is proud of. And when they won the Super Bowl and were walking off the field, Tony Dungy and Jim Irsay walked up together and looked at all of the blue and white in Miami and said, we did it. Mission accomplished. The winning is maybe the reason, but we put together an organization and a franchise that Indianapolis feels is theirs and that they can be proud of. And Jim Irsay came to Indianapolis with the Colts when his dad brought them here at a time when this city didn't feel very good about itself. We had, I was a kid then. I remember it well. We had the National Sports Festival. We had the Pan Am Games shortly after the Colts had come here. But in 1984, we were the amateur sports capital of the world. And the Pacers were in their fledgling NBA years. Yes, they'd had ABA success, but now they're taking their lumps as the new kid on the block. And it was a college sports town and, an AAU town. And the Colts obviously took that to another level. And then Jim Irsay not only saw the success of the Colts, but parlayed that into building things for downtown Indianapolis and recruiting for events to come to Indianapolis. He was a pillar of the city. He was absolutely somebody with his demons and weaknesses. But at the same time, as Derek had said, in his heart and in his spirit was the promotion of Indianapolis. And he leaves with a city that is far more vibrant than that with which he arrived. And he also, I think, does so as somebody who now, even though he grew up in Chicago, even though he collegiately was in Dallas, and even though his father's team that he'd purchased was in Baltimore, he leaves this city certainly as one of the key heartbeats of Indianapolis. And that's the most you can ask for someone.
Yeah. It's impossible on an hour-long show to fully encapsulate who he was and
his generosity. I mean, he was philanthropic and generous.
And you know what, Jake? It was the ultimate. I don't even really know how to put this, but the juxtaposition. There were so many things that were battling for Jim Irsay, where he was this on one end of the spectrum, and he was also that on the other end of the spectrum, right? Like, he was wonderfully philanthropic and giving and all of that. He is also somebody that accumulated an obscene amount of wealth, largely on the backs of one of the great sweetheart deals in taxpayer history.
No question.
With the stadium, right? So you're trying to align those two things. He was a football savant at times, and the Colts organization was a model of success that people wanted to replicate. And at other times, he was abrasive and reactive and arrogant about his decision-making and rushed into awful decisions. And the Colts were a model of discombobulation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
No, for sure.
we don't want to be like the Colts. So, you know, highs and lows. And then obviously in his personal life, highs and lows. But at the end of the day, it's hard to think that anyone will ever have the singular impact on Indianapolis sports that Jim Irsay did.
Listen, he was very eccentric. And one of the things that I think he gets credit for is whether or not you agreed with or got tired of hearing about the different auction items and things he bought, and Muhammad Ali gloves and John Lennon guitars and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I think that he did enjoy accumulating a lot of those things because he wanted to share them with people under one roof. And he wanted people of multiple levels and areas of interest to be able to come in and enjoy the things that he had collected. And, you know, I do think that his heart was absolutely in the right place with that.
Yeah, and as much as people nationally, other fan bases poked fun at him, he was one of the Mount Rushmore owners of the league.
And he was the owner in the NFL that the rest of the NFL should thank, because he began spearheading the moment to get Daniel Snyder out of there.
But, I mean, if you're talking about influence, it's like him, Jerry. You know, it's a very short list of guys that were at the head of the table. Jim Irsay was at the head of the table as far as influence for rules, for cap, for all that stuff for many, many years. And so, you know, obviously he was doing something right to earn that level of respect.
Right.
But, yeah, he'll be missed, and it's just hard. It's hard to fathom the loss. And
there
you know, this stuff about the daughters and everything else, like, we'll get to that when we get there.
Right.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we get there. I mean, I saw an article that was released. What are the tax ramifications of Jim Irsay passing? It was like 90 minutes after his death, and I'm like, come on, guys, like, let's not do this. Let's chill. Quick notes. Did you see this? John Halliburton being allowed back.
Yep.
So, father of Tyrese Halliburton, obviously we know what happened with Giannis. He will be in a suite for Game 4, so he will not be underneath the basket. He has not yet been permitted to attend road games either, so when this goes back to the Garden, we don't know that he's going to be there. Caitlin Clark out 2 weeks. First injury since she was a high school athlete. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
She played every game at Iowa. She has not missed a pro game.
Strain quad, right?
We'll miss a minimum of 2 weeks, and they're going to take it real easy, obviously, as they should. The season just started. And then maybe a topic for a rainy day later this summer, SEC and Big Ten pushing for a 16-team college football playoff where you'd have 4 automatic entries from the SEC and Big Ten. So the SEC and Big Ten would make up half the field.
That would have put in who this year?
Well, you already had 4 from the Big Ten, right?
Yeah,
Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Indiana. You had Georgia, Tennessee,
Texas,
Alabama, right? They would have been the 4th team.
Oh, yeah, Alabama.
They would have been the 4th team, though, from the SEC. They would have been 4th in line.
Nobody wants Alabama, man.
Nobody needs that. That just was not good enough of a team, unfortunately, for them.
But what this is these two teams figuring out a way to make sure that Indiana stays in every year.
That's right.
Because they want IU
Make sure the
Hoosiers. Why not Indiana?
Make sure the Hoosiers stay there. You just remake that shirt and just do it in the old, like, Indiana script on the back of the jersey, right?
Why that's not the game plan, Derek?
Oh, is that really what it is? Okay, sorry. I'm
no fool here.
I'm giving away the farm here. We come back, Chateau Kitchen's Buy It or Bull Bleep, and we will wrap it up here on Corey and Schultz. What are we on, 238? 9? Somewhere in there. ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC, which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey and Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Hey, AC,
Nice snap.
mortgages in a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Back for a final time. Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network alongside Jake Query. I am Derek Schultz. Vince is in there. He's got his Pacers stuff on. Jordan is in there. His last place Orioles have been a little bit better here lately.
That's good.
They've won. I've seen they've won a game or two. But at this pace, winning 2 games a week is actually pretty good compared to what the Orioles have been doing so far this year. And our buddy Rake is back there as well. Time for our friends at Chateau Kitchens, and they present you the Buy It or Bull Bleep segment that is hotly contested every year. Everybody wants to sponsor this thing, and we love Chateau so much that we allowed them to sponsor it. At Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook for before and after pictures, chateaukitchens.com. In-home transformations, that's what they're in the business of doing. They've done it in my home. We did our basement. They redid James's bathroom / the guest bathroom upstairs. We have a guest bathroom downstairs, I guess, too. And our kitchen. So Chateau's done 3 rooms in our house. We got like a 2,100 square foot house, and they've probably renovated 1,200 square feet of it. Pretty crazy. Maybe even more than that. And they could do the same for you. If you think my house is beautiful, you're right.
They've been at your
and
house
that's
more than
because
I have.
Chateau Kitchens has. Fair. You've been on my front porch a good amount of time.
once.
But now, actually gaining entry into the house, not as much. Statement number 1, Jake. The Indianapolis 500 is as healthy as it can possibly be. Buy it or Bull Bleep?
No, I think there's always room for improvement. I mean, certainly aerodynamically with the new cars they're going to have to come out with to make better passing would be one thing, and then
I'm talking like overall health of the event, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, they had a sellout, so I would say that in that regard, buy it. But I do think that there are the on-track product. I think there are a lot of people that were there that were like, man, I'd like for a better product. And so if you're going to go with overall health, that could be improved.
Yeah, I mean, if I was really nitpicking, I would agree with you that it wasn't a great show this year. I think some of that was
can we get people
weather-related.
to come out to the practice days during the course of the week instead of just carb day and race?
Yeah, I thought Fast Friday was light this year.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. You know what? I say that, and the stands that you immediately walk into were completely full. So we had to go all the way down to turn 1 to sit for Fast Friday. I've never had to do that before. So I don't know. Maybe Fast Friday was better attended than I thought. But yeah, I mean, as healthy as it can be without some minor tweaks, sure. I'm just going to say buy it because I never thought we would be in a place in 2025 where the Indianapolis 500 would be selling out.
Right.
I just didn't think it was possible. I already know your answer to this. The winner of Game 4 wins the Pacers-Knicks series. Buy it or Bull Bleep?
Totally buy it.
I'm going to say Bull Bleep because I don't think 2-2 guarantees the Knicks anything. I think 3-1 pretty much. I'd have a hard time believing the Pacers will lose 3 games in a row.
Right.
I just have a hard time believing it. But I think the Knicks have to win to make this a series tonight. But I don't think just because it's 2-2 that means that they're automatically going to I think the Pacers could win one more at the Garden. In fact, I kind of like how they play on the road. They just seem to take to it more. School should not go past Memorial Day. Buy it or Bull Bleep?
Yeah, I buy that.
My kid's still in school.
That's ridiculous.
It's weird. Like we have 2.
Well, the
teachers have already sent everything home. Like, what are they going to do? Worksheets?
Well, don't you remember the last week? It was like helping teachers pack up boxes.
Yeah, like Friday.
Signing yearbooks.
Friday, they're dismissed.
Did you have a lot of kids sign your yearbook?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Usually it was mean things.
Party all summer. See you next year.
Yeah. Usually it was mean things. I actually went back and I read my senior yearbook. This was like last year, I think, at this time. And there were a lot of references in there, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't know what that reference is to. Because we had so many inside jokes and things like that. And like 25 years later, it's hard to remember every single inside joke that you had in 1999.
Chris Butts signed my yearbook. I was reading it, I don't know, it's a couple of years ago, and it just said, like, thanks for getting my car out of Broad Ripple. Okay.
Yeah.
Must
And you're
have,
like,
the
did I
day
give your
before.
car out of Broad Ripple? Like, what ended up happening? Yeah. Yeah, one of them, like, Schultze, thanks for all the bum cigarettes. And and it was like signed like this. And I was like, I don't even know who signed that. And I don't remember bumming people cigarettes a whole lot.
Maybe they bummed them off you.
No, that's what I mean. He said, thanks for bumming me cigarettes. But it was like in cursive, his signature.
What do you think your mom thought of that when she read your
I don't
yearbook?
know. They're very proud and happy with me now. At that time, there were some concerns with my development and growth and what I was going to become.
Let me ask you this. Do you think most of what they're proud of is the fact that you had the foresight to attach to this wagon, and that's what...
Buddy, you want to know your career, where your career was before you attached to this wagon too? So you and I both can thank each other for that. That's why we're best friends. We both have the appreciation for what each other has meant to our career. No. Carb Day Show was fun. It was fun. It was fun getting back on the bike again.
I failed to mention that. So my daily radio show, thank you to Derek on Carb Day for filling in for the first, probably 45 minutes or so?
Yeah.
While I was wrapping up duties and then got over there to the Pagoda Plaza. And it was a great crowd. Derek, that was as much in terms of like people coming up to say hi as much as I've seen in a long time. Yeah. But Elio was great. Mario Andretti was great. Willie T. Ribs
Jim Corneliuson was great.
Jim Corneliuson
a lot of fun.
Was great. It was fun. All of it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, and just, making jokes like I think Jim and who was the fellow from the opera?
David Starkey.
Yes, David. We're talking about, how long it takes, like 7-8 years of study and all of that. And, I just riff off you and spending 7 years in college before you ended up ultimately getting a degree a couple of decades later. And it's just stuff like that. Like you can't teach this chemistry and genuine love for one another.
Those guys were great, though.
Yeah. But it was cool. It was cool to have people come up and be like,
there's nothing like doing that show and the flyovers are taking place.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there were a couple of people that came up to me. It was emotional for them. Borderline in tears. One guy actually was in tears about Corey and Schultz being back on the radio at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Yeah. So it was deeply meaningful to the people there. And that means a lot to me. I
actually signed an autograph on a hat.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah.
That's not uncommon.
Did you?
Remember that one guy that came up to us one year and he had something signed by like Mario and like Dan Weldon and like people that you don't get a do-over on that one. You know what I mean? Like you have this, he signed it. You can't then go ask him to sign something else, right? God rest his soul, Dan Weldon. And he wanted you and me to sign.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what it was, like a program or something.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing, bud?
Yeah.
You don't want this to happen. Thank you to our great sponsors like our friends at Chateau Kitchen, chateaukitchens.com, at Chateau Kitchens on socials for before and after pictures. Chili Water Brewing and Hoagies and Hops, 42nd and Boulevard and Hoagies and Hops.com there on the southwestern edge of Midtown. And a final thank you to American Dairy Association Indiana. They always do a great job sponsoring, or do a great job with everything that they do in the month of May, but we really appreciate them sponsoring this show in April and May,
Brooke,
and we had a great
Jenny,
time at the Ricky Luncheon.
all of them.
Yeah, they're all wonderful, wonderful people. And, of course, our presenting sponsors in Bailey and Wood Financial Group. For Jake, I'm Derek. We will see you next time here on Corey and Schultz. Hopefully we're talking about the NBA Finals by then here on the ISC Sports Network.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.